Good morning, CEP 200 students, and welcome to Unit 3 of the course. As promised, I wanted to mix up the unit videos from the unit audios and stuff like that. I've also been notified that the audio version in UB Learns does not offer captions or subtitles, so I'm going to continue working on that for students who have emailed me about that. Also, if you hear any weird noises, it's my dog sleeping in the corner. So, just to give you that disclaimer. So, as of last night, we submitted all of the materials for Unit 2. So, what you should have submitted was the Unit 2 assignment, the discussion board number 2, and then the journal reflection number 2. So, what I wanted to do is just go through a couple of things that I noticed from the Unit 1 assignments that I had been grading, just because, as promised, I like to have all of those grades back to you by the end of the unit before. So I know it's probably seems like a while ago because it was Unit 1, but just some tips that might be helpful for you going forward in the rest of the course. So first and foremost, I think I had mentioned this in my welcome video, but I cannot open assignments that were created and saved in Pages. So if you can, even if you complete your assignment in Pages, you should be able to go and save it as a PDF and then leave it in the Dropbox. So that's an option. Otherwise, Microsoft Word is totally fine. And with that, talking specifically about unit assignments, so I do provide that template for a reason. It's much easier to kind of just go in, fill out, save, and resubmit, but also it's much easier for me to kind of track the questions. I'm used to the format and that. So if we could continue to just utilize that template instead of copying and pasting the questions and putting it in a Word document or creating your own template, I do ask that we don't do that. So if you could refrain from doing that, that would be super helpful for me. And then let's take a look here. So the other thing that I want to mention is just really keeping in mind the word counts. So like I had said in the first video, students really struggled when I had said, give me a thorough, insightful response kind of thing, and they needed something a little bit more tangible in terms of like feeling like they were answering things to the completion. So please remember the 200 to 250 word counts. So that goes for journal entries, that goes for unit assignments, discussion boards. So I wanted to keep it pretty consistent so it was easy to remember. So please just keep that in mind. And what I want to do as I'm just kind of talking about journal entries is go back to my prompt for the first journal entry. And so what we were talking about was different ways that people would prefer for multicultural counseling or just cultural competence, what methods or modalities would be most helpful for people. So I had, some people talk about a number of different things, whether it be conferences or a series of courses or, getting out and immersing oneself in cultures and stuff like that. And I actually, it made me think about back to when I was taking American Sign Language as my language in college, and part of our curriculum was to actually go out to what are called signing events. So literally what we were doing is we were learning about the language, but we were also being asked to immerse ourselves in the culture, and that was super helpful. So just some things to think about, and I know that I had also mentioned in the prompt that the APA requires for graduate programs to offer multicultural counseling courses, but honestly, like CARCREP does as well, so if you wanted to go and get your license in mental health counseling from UB, part of the curriculum requirement is a multicultural counseling course. So as a lot of you had noted, it is something that is ever growing. We're always learning about things pertaining to culture, and so to continue to educate oneself about different cultures and stuff like that is going to be kind of like a lifelong learning experience. So thank you to everyone who had responded to that journal entry. It was really nice to see kind of the ideas in there. Another thing that I wanted to mention is, I'm sure that there's a number of students who have already gotten into the habit of watching the unit, listening to the unit audio, watching the unit video, that kind of thing. Continue to do this just because it becomes very evident to me when I'm grading quizzes of who's actually listening or watching and who's not, based on whether or not they get the questions wrong of what is in the quiz. So I did unfortunately come across a number of quizzes where the answers that I had given in the unit audio were actually incorrect. So please make sure you continue to watch the videos. Hopefully they're helpful for you. So with that being said, I did want to go through and just talk through a couple of the quiz questions, and I have quiz 2 prepped, but not quiz 1, so just give me a moment to go through this. Okay, so let's take a look here. So for the question of most state boards for licensure require blank number of hours of coursework and blank number of hours postgraduate supervision. So this is 60 and 3,000. So when you're considering coursework and doing a master's program, the coursework is going to come out to at the very least, 60 credit hours. That is a requirement, at least in New York State, for New York State licensure. As I've mentioned before, I can't really speak for other states, but this is how it is here. And then postgraduate supervision, so going out and being in the field after receiving your master's, before you can get licensed, you have to do 3,000 hours of supervised experience. So that might be working in like a nonprofit capacity or under, a licensed clinician in private practice or something like that. So I do want to note that. And then let's see here. There's a couple of other ones. No, that might have been it. Yeah, the other one that I was noticing that students really didn't answer completely, but that I did give partial credit for, was about when it's appropriate to terminate a counseling relationship. And so a lot of students were mentioning, if there's harm to the client or if there's no more benefit, but it expands more than that, honestly. I believe it was on page 6. Let me open this, but we can also terminate a counseling relationship if someone actually isn't paying the fees agreed upon, right? Because we don't want to continue to rack up a bill for a patient, because that is also unethical, right? And not putting them in a super great spot. Where did it go? Okay, so from page 6, counselors terminate a counseling relationship when it becomes reasonably apparent that the client no longer needs assistance, is not likely to benefit, or is being harmed by continued counseling. Counselors may terminate counseling when in jeopardy of harm by the client or by another person with whom the client has a relationship, or when clients do not pay fees as agreed upon. Counselors provide counselors provide pre-termination counseling and recommend other service providers when necessary. So that's where the referral would come in. So it's really unfortunate to think about like a client wanting to harm a therapist or someone in their life wanting to harm a therapist. Unfortunately, like that is a truth sometimes. It doesn't happen quite frequently, but it's not unheard of either. And then there was one other one that I had seen. Counseling is provided, Counseling is provided prominently through face-to-face interactions. This one was a little tricky, I kind of realized in hindsight, because the answer to that is false, and I think a lot of students ended up getting that correct, but telehealth is a huge thing now. And so when we say, in-person face-to-face, like that's in-person face-to-face, but telehealth is now an option, and some insurance companies will also cover phone sessions. So while historically in-person face-to-face interactions have been the primary method. That is no longer the case with our technology now. So just to kind of put that out there. And then I wanted to also just briefly discuss one of the prompts on the unit assignment, which was the statement of, we will never fully be able to check off the box of being an informed ally or community member because there is much more to learn. I had a good number of students say that they agreed with this, and then I had a number of students that disagreed with this. And the purpose of this was primarily to offer you an opportunity to give your opinion and a reflection. So there's no right or wrong answer to that, but just from my personal opinion, and just to kind of share this from an educational standpoint, we really never will be able to fully check off the box of being an informed ally or community member, because there is still always going to be so much to learn, and everyone's experience is different. And so we're going to constantly be informed. We're going to constantly have to improve allyship, or how we want to, approach it and attack it. But ultimately, I personally believe this statement to be true, because there's always still so much that we're learning, and things are changing and growing constantly. So just to give that thought. So anyways, that was it from the previous unit that I wanted to talk about. So let's go into Unit 3. And so what we're going to be talking about here is rehabilitation counselors and career counselors. So you're going to watch this video. You're going to read chapters 4 and 11, watch the short video on the art of rehabilitation counseling. Then you're also going to watch yet another TED Talk, The Voices in My Head, which is honestly really interesting. It kind of gives you a little bit of insight into schizophrenia. And then you're going to read 2 supplemental articles, complete the Unit 3 assignment, complete quiz number 2. And then you're going to post the topic of your advocacy paper in the discussion board. So with the topic of the advocacy paper, you do not need to comment on 2 of your classmates' posts for this. This is just simply putting in your title. It also doesn't even need to be 250 words. Just simply post your title, and that's it, and you get 25 points. So again, some topics could be well, let me kind of go back here for a second. So your final paper, your advocacy paper, is going to be on your own advocacy plan for a population that you are passionate about, or a population that you can identify as being vulnerable. So this could be advocating for the LGBTQIA+ community, Black Lives Matter, advocating for individuals who are survivors of childhood trauma, or sexual assault, or the homeless population. Like, there's so many that you can choose from. So just make sure that it's relevant to the counseling profession. That's all I ask. And then when we're taking a look at quiz number 2, so the quiz questions that we are going to have here are, first one being, which organization is responsible for overseeing the certification of rehabilitation counselors? So this one's a little tricky, I acknowledge, because I put both the CRC, which is a certified rehabilitation counselor, and then there's the CRCC. So the CRCC is the actual organization that oversees certification for rehabilitation counselors. So CRCC. The next one is, as a career counselor, you will only discuss vocational topics with your patients or clients. So resume writing, career information, attending workshop events, networking, stuff like that. The answer to this is false. So while a career counselor might not necessarily need to be licensed, they do definitely sometimes step out of this realm of just career counseling. So just to put that out there. And then just to talk a little bit about rehabilitation counselors and career counselors. I myself am a certified rehabilitation counselor. This is a program that is offered by UB. While rehabilitation counselors cannot do like individual therapy and bill insurance companies for stuff like that, once you do become a certified rehabilitation counselor, your certification is valid in every state in the whole country. So remember, we were talking a little bit about licensed mental health counselors and about how the licensure varies state by state. As a CRC, you are certified in the nation, so you can really go and get a job anywhere if you wanted to. So like I said, UB does have a master's program for this. They do prepare you to sit for the national examination, as well as doing some internship hours and stuff like that. And then career counselors oftentimes are rehabilitation counselors. So they're very separate, but they can also be very similar. So you'll learn a lot about that in the unit. But I think other than that, that was everything that I had. So looking forward to see how everyone did in Unit 2. And then there were a number of people who requested extensions for Unit 2. Totally fine. Have that stuff in by Friday. If you did not submit and you didn't submit for an extension, unfortunately, that late work is not accepted. Again, try to make it pretty easy for extensions to be granted. But yeah, if you have any questions or you need anything going forward, feel free to just shoot me an email and I'll talk to you soon.